not hooking up. It made it work, and now I just can't see my video. Start video. Start video. Start my video. Huh. I can't start my video, Taylor.
I see.
We might just have to do it without my face.
That's fine for the introductory PowerPoint, because once you stop sharing your screen, it should allow you to start video. I just clicked ask to start video, so you might get a pop-up requesting to start your video now.
Yeah, I tried that. Here, so I'm going to stop my share real quick.
Okay.
Right, here we go. No, here we go. There we go.
Okay, we can see it now.
All right. Though I may have to stop. Okay, what? Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say we're at 4 and we have a lot of people in already. So
all right, well, I'll go ahead and get started then. All right, sorry, I had some technical difficulties there, but hopefully they're resolved. But good evening and welcome to this week's webinar. My name is Dr. Ben Bellarato. I'm the lab director at Crow Canyon Archaeological Center, and we're really excited to bring you this week's webinar. And this week, our presentation is co-sponsored by as part of the Four Corners Lecture Series and the Hisatsinom chapter of the Colorado Archaeological Society is sharing with the presentation of this webinar, and it's entitled the Point Great House, Ceremonial Center of the Middle San Juan Region in northwestern New Mexico with Linda Wheelbarger. So before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and give you a couple tips on how to enhance your viewing experience and tell you a little bit about the webinar series. All right, so Crow Canyon Archaeological Center acknowledges the Pueblo, Ute, Paiute, the Dene or Navajo, and the Jicarilla Apache people on whose traditional homelands this institution sits, and upon which we work and reside. Our mission-related work would not be possible without the indigenous people in the past, the present, and the future. And we respectfully recognize and honor ancestral and descendant indigenous communities for their contributions to all humankind. Crow Canyon is grateful to all indigenous people and supports the preservation and protection of cultural traditions, ancestral connections, and sacred lands. At Crow Canyon, our mission is to empower the present and future generations by making the human past accessible and relevant through archaeological research, experiential education, and American Indian knowledge. And you can get more information on our research or education in our Native American outreach programs at crowcanyon.org. When our campus eventually reopens to the public, we invite you to come and see us in person too. Here you can see in the background of the slide our beautiful campus just at the head of the Ute Mountain, just outside of Cortez, Colorado. So I know over the last 2 years, many folks have become really familiar with the Zoom video conferencing program. But just in case you aren't familiar, we will give you a couple tips to help enhance your viewing experience. So the first one is you can move the talking heads. So at least for me, when I log into Zoom, I have these little boxes in the upper right of the screen where I can see myself, I can see Linda, I can see Taylor Hasbrook, our webinar guru. Well, if those little boxes are in your way or in hampering your viewing experience, you can move things around. So you can take your cursor and you can select a couple different options in how to see those boxes in relation to the main screen, or you can actually click on them and drag them and move them around in different places so they don't inhibit your viewing experience. Next, we invite you to please ask questions in the Q&A. So at least for me and most folks, you'll see this little black box somewhere on your screen that has chat, raise hand, Q&A, or live transcript. Well, you can go ahead and click on that Q&A, and it'll give you the prompt where you can type in a question for Linda based on her great presentation. And so as the presentation goes on, go ahead and feel free to type in those questions, and Taylor and I will try to streamline like questions. So at the end of the presentation, we can present as many of those as we can to Linda, and she can give us some answers. We ask you to put those in the Q&A. If you want to just say hi, hello from wherever, you can go ahead and put that in the chat as opposed to the Q&A. And then if you're having trouble viewing the presentation, you can actually watch it nearly a second updated on our Facebook page, and that's crowcanyon.org/Facebook. So you can head over to the live stream there, and you can see it. Like I said, it's like a 1 or 2 second delay, so nearly, right when things are going on. And you can actually type in some questions there, and we'll do our best to try to transfer those over to the main Zoom conference. And then also we invite you to subscribe to us on our YouTube channel. So that's crowcanyon.org/YouTube, and that's where you can go back and see this presentation again later. I know we're going to be really excited for what Linda has to tell us. So if you missed something or you want to just check it out again, you can go to the YouTube channel, watch it, or any of our other presentations from past weeks. We also ask you to like and subscribe to us on the YouTube venue, and that'll allow us to unlock additional features that'll help enhance your viewing experience that much more. This presentation will be followed up the next couple of weeks. Every week, every Thursday, I should say, we have another webinar as part of our Discovery Archaeology series or as part of the Four Corners lecture series. So next Thursday, May 26th, we have the Central Arizona Project and Taking of Diné Navajo Resources with Dr. Andrew Curley. And that's Thursday, May 26th at 4 p.m. The following week, June 2nd, also at 4 p.m. on Thursday, we have another Four Corner lecture series sponsored presentation entitled Sand, Stone, and Songs, Ancient Lessons from a Living Landscape with Vincent McMillan. And those both should be really great presentations, so we invite you to join us for those as well. And there's a number that are in the lineup. I've seen the inside scoop of the lineup for the next weeks after that, and they're really great as well. So please tune in. So now I want to go ahead and switch gears to this evening's presentation, which of course, like I said, is part of the Four Corners lecture series and is co-sponsored by the Hisatsinom chapter of the Colorado Archaeological Society. And this presentation is entitled The Point Great House, a ceremonial center of the Middle San Juan region in northwestern New Mexico with Linda Wheelbarger. And so I'm going to go ahead and stop my share because I am working on one screen today. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a little background info on Linda. Linda and I have known each other for over 22 years, I think it is now or so. But Linda is a professional archaeologist who first came to the Southwest in the summer of 1978 to work on the Dolores Archaeological program, the DAP, directed by Dr. Dave Brudernitz and Dr. Bill Light. And during the project, she fell in love with the Southwest and moved here in 1979 to build her archaeological career by continuing work at the DAP. And through the early 1980s, Wheelbarger worked on several large survey projects, including the Anos La Plata Reservoir, the Rifle San Juan Power Line, the Vermejo Park for York Canyon Coal Mine, while settling permanently in the city of Farmington, New Mexico. After working at Salmon Ruins Division of Conservation Archaeology for several years, Linda was hired to work at the San Juan College in their Cultural Resource Management program. She became co-director of the program in 1991 with Meredith Matthews, a well-known paleobotanist, and began teaching the college's field school in 1999 and other archaeological classes in 2005. Although Linda retired from the contract archaeology segment of her career in 2010, She continues to teach the field school, archaeological internships, and both credit and non-credit classes through the San Juan College Community Learning Center, as well as continuing with public archaeology commitments and conference presentations. And the field school has been excavating at the Point Great House community since 2006. Now, like I said, I've known Linda for a long time, and I'm really incredibly grateful that actually my first archaeological job as a real archaeologist, I worked for Linda for the field school and for the cultural resource management program, where we did a lot of home sites and well pad surveys, and really, cut my teeth. And really, Linda taught me so much. It was just amazing. And she's a great friend, a great scholar, and I'm really pleased to be able to present or to help her present this tonight. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to you, Linda. Thank you so much for coming, and we're really excited to hear what you have to say.
Excited to be here, and we were lucky to have you, Ben. That's for sure.
Thanks.
Okay, I guess I get to share a screen now.
Yeah,
huh?
Go ahead and share your screen, and it's all for you.
Okay, I got that picture up. Okay, we're looking at Point Great House. It is right across the river from the city of Farmington, and it is land owned by Tommy Bolack. And I do wish to thank you at Crow Canyon Archaeological Center and the Hisatsinom chapter of the Colorado Archaeological Society. Thank you. And actually, I've set up a tour for the Hisatsinom chapter folks, and they'll be coming out sometime in about the middle of June. So that it'll be while we're out there doing the excavation, but they're going to come on the weekend. So the picture you're looking at, and I think I got this cursor working a little bit. Here's the Needle Rock, which is a sacred place. It's the piece of the bluff that is set out from everything else. It does have 2 petroglyph panels on it. And Point Great House is sitting on this terrace with the sun shining on it. And it's about 100 foot above the San Juan River, which is between the trees that you're looking at and the terrace there. And then the bluffs extend for almost 300 feet above that. And you can see that those bluffs are of sandstone. It is an Ojo Alamo sandstone, and it does, I like to use the word, it drools. It drools, as well as the clays and shales that are just below there also, covering up things. So it's usually the things that are out away from the base of the bluff that are uncovered. So if there's anything back there under that drool, it's probably not going to be findable by us. I did want to just show you these two petroglyph panels that are on the Needle Rock. The one on the right faces to the northeast. The one on the left faces to the northwest. And you see on that one on the right, there is a holy person with 3 connected spirals above him. And I like to say, I think that it represents the water because we're right there on the San Juan River. So I believe that middle one's the San Juan River. And the one on the left is the Animas River coming in from the north. And the one on the right is Gallegos Wash coming in from the south. He does have big round earrings on, and Tommy Bolack, when he did some excavation at a site very close to the Needle Rock there, did find a pair of argillite earrings with a piece of turquoise set inside the middle of them that had been plastered against the wall. So I'm always, every time I see this guy, I imagine that he's wearing those red argillite earrings. The one on the left, it's kind of hard to see, but there is a flute player, a humpback flute player right here. And then of course we've got a spiral with similar to the Zia sign, lines going in each direction. And then we also have a spiral here. As to what that is, I have no idea. There's Tommy. This is an older picture. I got a more recent picture in here too. He did come to the college, President Henderson, and asked if they could run a field school, and somehow or another I got to be the one that was tapped to run that. So we do run field schools and internships. I do archaeological tours out on the ranch, and I also teach Encore and Community Learning Center classes, of which sometimes I take people out to the ranch. As a matter of fact, I did just teach a class on great kivas and took them out to Point Great House. So the ranch is actually 12,461 acres. It does have about 6 miles of the San Juan River. And as you can see, it kind of comes to a point as you go to the south. And that point right there is where Point Great House is. There's another property, the Hawkes Great House, that is off to the right there. And Tommy does not own that property. He would like to, but it's not going to happen. This is a recent picture of Tommy. He did just end up putting his entire ranch into 2 conservation easements, and that is through the New Mexico Land Conservancy out of Santa Fe. He was just written up in their little magazine this last winter, I guess it was. And it is a conservation bonanza for them, because he wants to keep it intact with his ranching and farming and museums, as well as the field school, as long as that'll go. He did put in a protection of cultural resources, because there are quite a lot of cultural resources on the ranch, and there's an unknown quantity that are buried beneath those fields. Tommy always says, when we're talking about the ancestral Puebloans, he goes, "Where's the water?" And because there it is right in front of his property. So he likes to think about that this is actually a very important area, because you do have so much water. And who's living there then? It's farmers. And what do they need? They need water. So it is a bonanza for the ancestral Puebloan farmers there too. He's high up on the bluffs looking down at the river, and a Point Great House is actually just below there, but it's hidden by the bluff there. These are some photos that they put in that article, and I really like that one on the top, because it really shows the green fields that he has under irrigation, and he does get his irrigation water from that river. The one on the lower left is in one of the canyons. There's 3 main canyons: Stewart Canyon, Mine Canyon, and Head Canyon. And I'm not sure which canyon this is. If it's Stewart, it's up near the head of it. And then, of course, there's his big lake on the lower right that's right by his house, and that's the biggest one. Oftentimes it's just filled with waterfowl. Another picture of the cattle grazing there. And then the one below is of the bluffs, which this is the Needle Rock right here. You have 2 alcoves on either side of the Needle Rock. The Tommy side is right here at the base of this clay shale outcrop. And then Point is on the terrace right next to it, right below here, because it looks like you can probably climb up those, although it's very tricky to get up there. I like to show that Salmon, Aztec, and now including Point, is not in isolation. There are a number of big sites in the Middle San Juan area, up the La Plata, up the Animas, and along the San Juan River, extending to the west and to the east from Farmington. There's another overview. This is Needle Rock right here. And then here's the Point site on this terrace. Tommy site is right down in here. And the Needle Rock site is just out from the Needle Rock itself. And it's right in this area right here. It looks like there may have been a structure there that would have been having to do with entering that sacred place of the Needle Rock. And yet another view, you can see the Twin Peaks in the distance. I don't have that. You can see Carrizo to the west also. And then of course you can see the La Plata Mountains to the north, and then you can see Harris Mesa and Angel Peak to the east. Angel Peak's just slightly out. You just have to go around to the east side of the site to see that. Let's see here. This is the most recent Google Earth image. There's the Great Kiva. If you look back in your history on Google Earth, you'll see that nothing showed up before we started out there. There was a little depression, but that because of all the activity that had been conducted up there, that road, this road right here is the what's called the Tennessee Boulevard, and was built in the early 1950s during the heyday of oil and gas exploration. And they went right through the Great House and right through the Great Kiva also. But they also constructed another road down here, which I'll show on the site map here in just a second. And I'm not sure why they did that, because it kind of ends right here. But maybe that was where they first went, and they decided it was going to be too hard to maintain, and they moved it up above. But anyway, I do like to say that yes, this went through the structures, but this one actually probably caused more damage because it increased the erosion greatly. Another Google Earth image. I just like to, show that there's a whole bunch of farmland. A lot of that is floodplain now. That dam has been built since the mid 1960s. So everything stays put pretty much now. But of course, when the ancestral Puebloans were living there, that river wandered. It has been defined as a braided river. Again, these are the big sites that are on Tommy's ranch, except for Hakas over here, which is on this little piece. And then the Hakas Great Kiva there is a Great Kiva on a thin little ridge that is on the east side of Gallegos Wash. So you can see actually Gallegos Wash on the west and the San Juan River just immediately to the north and to the right of that. Some of these are probably great houses. The Tommy site, when I excavated there before going to Point, it was, I was calling it a small house, but now upon reflection, after all these years, I do believe that that is actually a small great house also. It did contain probably about 20 to 25 rooms, and there were 2 blocked in kivas within it, and the walls are 50 to 60 centimeters wide, made of a compound veneer, not Corin veneer, compound veneer wall, the same as Sterling is, and which is also the same as you find at Point Great House also. So that's a localized version of, I think, the Chaco veneered walls. They're just not making the core, but they're making a compound veneer wall. Mine Canyon Village, we don't know enough about that, although Tommy did excavate there to call it a great house or not. Hakas on the other end is definitely a great house, and the Sterling site is also a great house. There you go. That's where the Middle San Juan area is. Of course, it's kind of defined by the Colorado line to the north and the Arizona line to the west. And you can see it's where the water is. That's where the water is. You got the Animas and La Plata drainage and a couple others draining from the north. You also have Largo Wash draining in just east of the Middle San Juan area, and Chaco Wash also heads at the Continental Divide, as does Largo, as does the Animas River, and this is the San Juan River here. So those are all heading at the Continental Divide. However, Chaco and Gallegos are heading from a very low area of the Continental Divide, and they're not bringing those igneous cobbles downslope. Ceramics, I'm not going to talk too much about ceramics, but we're right here in the middle with the Northern San Juan tradition to the north side of the river, the Cibola tradition to the south side of the river, and the Chusca tradition to the southwest, encompassing pretty much the Chusca Mountains. It doesn't seem to encompass that Carrizo, the northern end of it, which does seem to be a little bit of Cibola and Northern San Juan there also. So Northern San Juan tradition is defined by ceramics with the temper of an igneous called augite diorite. The Chusca ceramics also have igneous materials called trachyte, very shiny and sparkly. And the Cibola ceramics have sand or sand and sherd, crushed sherd, temper in them. So the Chusca is very easy to find. And the sand or sanded sherd is fairly easy, except sometimes they grind that augite diorite up so finely that it's kind of hard to see whether it really has that in it or not. There is the plan map of Point Great House. There's the Great Kiva. There are large walls here connected to the Great Kiva, but they are cobble walls, which is really rather confusing to me because I normally think of cobble walls as late walls. But the Kiva, the construction of the Kiva is obviously Chacoan and seems to be sometime in that mid-1000s time period. Now, the actual D-shaped Great House over here does have walls that are made of all those of sandstone, cobbles, petrified wood, and shale also. With the Ark of Rooms probably added at a later date, also having all those same materials. But these walls here are pretty much distinctly cobble. I'm going to talk about this little Mesa Verde small house here with an attached kiva. I'll also mention this kiva over here. I believe I only have one slide of this because we've not really done much done much over there. And then this circle here with a strip, test trench through it has now expanded. We do know that that is a pit structure. It's actually a very large pit structure. It is 6 meters in diameter, which is on the very large end of normal pit structures. And this is a P1 structure, which may have had some basket maker beginnings in it. Still not sure about that. There's a couple things that I'll talk about that make it indicate that it may have initially been a basket maker pit house. I didn't even know I started on the Great Kiva when we started on it in 2008. We discovered these. The main reason I did that was because I had only 5 students, and one of them was 89 years old. So we weren't going to be able to move a lot of dirt. This wall was sticky. You could see that in the cut bank of the Tennessee Boulevard, and you could also see this one. So we started back here just thinking that we would move forward and follow those walls. And sure enough, immediately we found a vent shaft that turned out to be a P3 vent shaft, and obviously a modification of the Great Kiva. This is the shaft, the vent shaft, and then there was this plug wall, and then there was this beautiful wall which matched the Chacoan veneer, which turned out, I'm sure that that is an altar. The altar did have a decoration on it. There's been several areas of the site where in the walls you see a decoration of the green shale, which is the same green shale that you see over at Aztec ruins, decorating some of their walls. So on this altar, there was one green shale stone here, 2 green shale stones there, and 3 of them over here, which has a similarity to that little Zia red burnt sandstone Zia symbol that you see on one of the walls very near the Tower Kiva over at Salmon Ruins. These were set on the floor as a closing offering when they left the site, the upper floor of that antechamber. We did find a few things on the lower floor, but these were a very big Mesa Verde black on white bowl and a corrugated utility jar. I think there was a few beads on the original floor, and I think there was also a projectile point. I didn't bring a picture of that. There's the depression. It's a very small depression, but that's because that road, when they bulldozed that road, they moved the center of the direction to the north. So my north, south, and east, west trenches, which we immediately put on there, were kind of off center too far to the northwest. Once we started on that, I did send a couple of guys over here and told them to take out that plug wall and the vent shaft. And you'll see this, they come running over and they go, there's steps under there. And sure enough, this is where the vent shaft was. So these did turn out to be steps, 4 2-meter long steps, relatively shallow, with the altar wall off to one side. In the east-west trench, as we're trying to define the boundary of the Great Kiva, we did find a foundation stone. This is about 2 feet in diameter and kind of your normal 5 inches thick. I'm giving you feet, inches instead of meters or metric. So that's another indication of a Chacoan Great Kiva having these foundation stones. Now, what was it doing to fill? I'm still not sure, but I think that they, based on our what I'm going to talk about, the remodeling of the Great Kiva, I do believe they modified it later on and took out the foundation discs. We only found this one. As you can see, it's broken. Okay, I'm going to skip ahead for 8 seasons now. So this is, I can't see up there, 2015, I think, or 16. And we've completely exposed the bench and the uppermost floor over the entire Great Kiva and the roof support platform vault complexes. That's what I'm calling them. There's one on each side and they are contiguous. There's not a separate platform on the north and the south on each side. It's just kind of continuous with walls in between. So after point locating all the things that are on the floor and gathering everything else, and we had not found any hearth, which was quite surprising to me. So we did dig an excavation, did a 1 meter wide trench directly north-south through the center, and we did find a masonry hearth, but that masonry hearth is on the remodeled floor, which I'm going to talk about, the remodeled floor beneath and the original floor beneath. So what we found was This is the stratigraphy. So we have the uppermost floor here, and this uppermost floor is actually several floors, probably 6 or 7 of them that are only a few centimeters apart. And really it was only at the very edge that you could determine those different floors. So we just ended up excavating all of that in the trench. And then we came across this remodeled floor, which consists down here is the original floor, floor 3, the original floor. I should qualify that by saying that it was not the original floor, because later on we found floors 4 and 5. So to what happened when they did this remodeling event is they cleaned out the original floor, brought in about 18 centimeters of a sand gravel that did have very dark pieces of shale in there, along with a few artifacts, but not very many. Then on top of that, they laid 8 centimeters of this very kind of yellowish, very clayey soil, and then proceeded to create a number of features. This is the plan view at that time that we had with those cobble walls, you know, connected to the feature up here. Here's the antechamber, our north-south trench. We did find 2 sipapus, a sipapu on the remodeled floor and a sipapu on the original floor, only 20 centimeters apart. And in both instances, those are simple sipapus that are about 9 centimeters in diameter and about 23 centimeters deep with nothing in them. So thank you, Rob Weiner, for being able to find those. I have to say that he did a very good job in finding those because they were very ephemeral. This is one of the Chacoan exotica that we did find. This was actually about 20 centimeters out from the wall, the back wall, and about 20 centimeters above the bench on the east side. Steve Respopo found that ring, and what an excitement that was a jet ring. And looking up the information on that, we did find that it was found at Pueblo Bonito. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rings were found. 4 of them were found by the jet excavation, and 1 was found by the Wetherell Pepper excavation. I'm assuming that it fell down out of a niche in the wall. Unfortunately, there was so little left of the back wall of the Great Kiva. Most of it was only about 30 centimeters high. There was one area, one very small area where it went a little bit over 50 centimeters, but that meant that we did not have any evidence of niches. Turquoise beads were found near the northwestern platform, several of them. Michelle Turner found several of those. And we found a number of glycymeris, olivella, abalone, jet, calcite, and argillite beads also. And these are things that were left at the very southern edge of the Great Kiva on that uppermost floor. This includes the 2 red vessels at the right are White Mountain redware. It's a Tusayan black on white that is of a late Pueblo II design. And below that one in the middle is a Mogollon Xolo red. That bowl was complete. None of the others were. And then the 4 on the left there are all Makelmo black on white, which is an earlier P3 version. Also found a turkey bone bead necklace there. And I like to show this because it looks like a kachina mask to me, obviously. So that's very interesting because I don't think you very often find representations of masks on pottery. And also in that closing area were several teeny tiny beads. You had to be really careful not to kind of breathe too heavily on them. Otherwise they would fly out. So you had to be very, very careful. Those are argillite and turquoise. And then the site was very heavily potted. Once they built that road through there, it probably was potted before that because Tommy said he found an AB bottle indicating early potting there. But Peggy Gotti actually found this, and it was over on the southeast portion of the Great Kiva on that near that uppermost floor, and or just slightly above it, I guess, 15, 20 centimeters above that floor. And upon inspection of the walls, we did see that there was a great break, probably the size of a backhoe, or maybe it was just pick and shovel, that they had breached the wall, the Great Kiva wall on that eastern side, and this wasn't too far from that break. Okay, well, now then we proceeded to start excavating down to that remodeled floor, and we found numerous, and by numerous, I mean more than 100 features just on the east side. We only excavated the east side of the Great Kiva down to the remodeled floor. Many of those did have a sherd in them. No, it was less than half, maybe a quarter of them did, but several of them had beads right on the top of them. And most of them seem to have been used for a ritual of some kind and then capped. And then they proceeded to cap all those features and then use the floor. Otherwise, I don't think they could have walked around. One of the features did have this really nice Macomo black on white bowl. We also found a jet pendant that's on the left, argillite pendant on the bottom, and then a modified piece of wood that is in kind of a slingshot shape. I don't know what that is about. This gives you a little view of how many features, and this is a very anomalous floor feature that was kind of U-shaped and had interconnecting. Some of those smaller features outside of it actually connected to it, and there were a number of rocks that had different colors representing who knows what, something sacred and ritualistic, I'm sure. And then just last year, we did find one similar to that, very similar to that on the west side when we went down into just 4 different areas that were only one bys set to go down to that floors 4 and 5. Very unusual to see cobble set into that remodeled floor on the north side of the eastern one and the south side of the eastern vault complex. We have not excavated over on the western side, but I'm assuming they will be there. I can see that there is definitely one on the south of the western complex, but I'm not sure about the north. Have not been able to see that. So here you see this nice masonry that's inside this really sloppy masonry, I'll say. And it turns out it is a very nice, more of a Chacoan style wall, almost a type 4 Chacoan wall. There it is looking at that. Here's the Chacoan wall inside the more cruder type of masonry. And this is a plan view. Look at all those features. And David and Carol were the ones who did most of those, not all of them, but probably the majority of them. There you can see an underlying vault wall here that belongs to that earlier kiva that I'm going to talk about here in just a minute. This is where there was a communal pit and it extended over into the trench, so it extended over here too. We did take it down one place because they always say, go find sterile. So we did find sterile, and I forget exactly how deep we had to go. I think it was about 2 meters, maybe more. That's just from where we started. That's just from the top of floor 1 there. And you can see this is actually the original floor here. That's the original floor, which I thought was the original floor, floor 3, but then we found this one and I called it floor 4, but in point of fact, there was actually another floor down here, floor 5, that we have discovered recently. This hearth, Kay Barnett came out and did do an archaeomag, and she got an archaeomag date of 910 to 1040. Which, because we did find that the bench is the same sort of Chacoan veneer as the upper bench, it has to be at the very late end of that, or it could possibly be even more like 1050 or 1060, I'm thinking. But yeah, I'll go for 1040, maybe 1060, maybe also. So yes, and you can see the different layerings here. This is your bedrock down here. Okay, we did take apart one of those piers under the cobble. So here's the cobble. This is the northeastern one. It had the biggest group of cobbles around it. And this is the inside pier after we've taken off all the cruder masonry down to the top of the cobbles there on floor 2. And this is what we found. Oh, there it is, looking at it. Okay, right under some slabs, we found 8 centimeter diameter logs. And I did take those as dendros, but it's rotten. All the rest of the wood there was completely rotten. So it's kind of doubtful that they'll date, but I don't know if I can get a C14 out of it or not. We still haven't run those samples. That brings to mind a similarity to Aztec ruins Great Kiva in that those columns have also pieces of wood in them. They counted them. They have 12 over there at Aztec. We only have 8 here, and this seems to be a pier, and that seems to be a column over at Aztec, although sometimes there's a little bit of doubt as to whether those may have been higher piers rather than going all the way to the top. So I guess we just don't know. Although Earl did a great job reconstructing that, so, you know, he's probably right. This is the additional kiva that we found underneath it. So until just a couple of years ago, we thought that was it. You know, the original floor 3 was it. But we did put down a test pit to find that floor 4 because we didn't have that, and thinking that the bench wall would continue down. But as you can see, it ends abruptly where floor 3 was. But we did find this other bench that's also 70 centimeters wide, same as the upper bench. And then this is floor 4 is right here, and floor 5 is right here. So we have floor 4 and 5. Louis is the one who did that excavation, and he did find several artifacts just immediately above floor, kind of between floor 4 and 5. And those did look to be earlier artifacts. I believe one of them was a red mesa black on white, and one of them was a Chaco black on white. Cibola ceramics, which is quite interesting. That kind of brings to mind the Chacoan connection there. In looking at some of the literature, I now see that this construction is very similar to Chetraketl in that there are 2 kivas, a lower kiva and a bigger, they enlarged it to be another kiva above that. So, and even the dimensions of the lower one and the upper one are quite similar. And another similarity, which I did not include a photo of, is the fact that at Chetraketl, you see this one portion of the wall there that has a kind of a clunky masonry right in front of it. And we had that exact same thing on the western side of the upper Great Kiva. So that's very interesting. So this is the most recent plan view showing the inner bench right here and the outer bench right here. And so we just this last summer, we put in these 4 1-bys to go and find, and this is where we found that feature that's on the west side that was similar to David and Carol's anomalous feature over here. And this one also has rocks of different colors, and it's a very, very strange feature, not similar at all to the others. And in each of these instances, we did get down to 4 or 5 and got a few things. This one actually had a feature in it. Actually, almost all of them had features in them except this one. This one, I think, did not have very many. So it appears that if we would go down to the remodeled floor over this side of the Great Kiva, it would have a lot of features just like these over here. There's the jet bird. This was found it was the last thing they left in that closing offering that had the whole bowls that I showed you before, the Mogollon Xolo Red and the McElmo ones and the Tusayan and the White Mountain Redware. This was found right there. It actually was found on top, not the ring. The ring was over there on the east side, but this, and it was like almost the last day of class. And the person excavating, I think his name was Mike, he turns and puts that right in front of my face, and he goes, "Look!" And I looked at it and I go, "Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God!" And everybody looks over and is like, "Whoa!" So that was a very special thing. It is made out of jet, and there was one found similar to it, but made out of hematite at Pueblo Bonito. But the shape of them is almost identical. There would have been a piece of shell attached here if it's similar to the one at, if it's like the one at Pueblo Bonito, and there would have been turquoise around here. This one does not have the wings of turquoise like that one did, though. And of course, this is a Chaco Exotica also. The Great House. I'm calling it a D-shaped Great House, although definitely the Great House portion, this portion appears to have been built probably before the Arc of Rooms was added on, which was probably added on in the mid to a late 1100s, possibly not till the early 1200s. So far, we do not know what this is here, and this also is under some back dirt, so we've not been able to excavate this way. I'm hoping we can do that this summer. This room turned out to have a lot of slabs in it. This room was used for, I think the entire room was an offering room. There were so many pots in there. A few of them were nearly whole, but a lot of them were like, a fourth there, maybe only an eighth there. Nevertheless, we recognized 60 to 80. A good 20 of those had a fair amount to them. And Elaine Finner is the one who puts my pots together. And so she did a marvelous job putting those together. This room is the one that verified to us that this is a 2-story great house. It's possible that this room, because it's a little bit further down the slope, and this wall was not very high, it's possible that that one is only 1 story. This one, and I don't know, possibly these two are 2 stories, unless this happened to be a 3-story, which wouldn't be unusual to have it terraced like that. We did excavate the south half of this, and this is all we excavated in this room. We did excavate this room completely and have not actually gone on to that one. We've have 1 2x2 in this, and just a small area that we've excavated into this one, and just a small area we've excavated into this one. And we haven't excavated this all. There should be a line coming across there, so we didn't excavate the southern portion. I've imagined a line coming across here. I don't know if that's true. However, just the very end of the session last year, I did find that this wall actually continues. So there may be another row of rooms there. And this will never know the connection, because on both of those places, the road went completely through it. Everything was buried, completely buried. You wouldn't even know there was a great house there, and there was only just a little bit of rubble on the top. So once we started looking for that in 2017, it took us a while to figure out where all that stuff was. Oops. Anyway, so we keep piling up the rocks for rooms, and this is room 30 right here, and room 34 is actually over there. There's an example of the walls, which as I mentioned, is made of a variety of materials. It does have little chinkers in it. So it's, I asked a couple of people who should know what you would call this, and they just said, well, it's not type 1. So I'm not really quite sure either. This is a portion of room 36 that's right next to the painted kiva. So this wall right here is the western wall of the painted kiva. And this room had a lot of shaped slabs in it, which are right there. And in addition, it did have some of these slabs. This is one of them that kind of looked like they were for making sandals, usually called a sandal last right here. And it did have some more of those. I just didn't have them in this picture. There's some ladies that were working in room 33 last year, and they found a whole bowl, and we all got kind of excited about that. It is not on the floor. It is in a burned roof layer. This room 30, room 33, and room 30, these two, and room 32. 30, 32, and 33 all had burned roof layers. And in those burned roof layers, we have been getting a lot of wonderful carbonized textiles, such as sandals, turkey feather blankets, a yucca hairbrush, and basketry. So this is that burned roof layer. Inside the plaza, I just figured that there should be a great kiva in there, or not a great kiva, a kiva. So we did put test units in last summer, and we did find evidence of a kiva. It looks to be about 7 to 8 meters in diameter. So, and it was built right up against this solid, well, this sandstone is not very solid because it just melts very easily. But I think the vent shaft, it might have been part of the vent shaft. And this is because it does appear to be the vent shaft that's right there. We've gone no further than this. So we will be working a little bit on that this coming summer. This is the painted kiva that was in that southeast part of the great house. A blocked-in kiva, and it does appear to be a Chacoan in style. Not really radial pilasters, although there was one pilaster over here that did look like it might have been a radial pilaster. It's painted, And you can see these are this again, another Aztec similarity with the maroon color, which is a red ochre paint, and then white, very similar to the Great Kiva at Aztec. So it's a little bit more than half painted red, and then the rest of it's painted white. There were no design elements on this plaster. And this is the hearth that was in there, and we did try to get an archaeomag on that, but what it turned, this is kind of weird, because this rock was sitting right here, and when you lifted that rock up, it was a perfect hole that looked kind of like a sipapu right underneath it. So anyway, when Kay Barnett came out to take that archaeomag over in the Great Kiva, she tried to get one here, but it turned out that this lower, the bottom part was actually we did this part because we removed this later, but it was slabs underneath the bottom of this, and so there was not enough burned dirt in a thick enough layer for her to get a archaeomag out of that. Okay, on to the Arc of Rooms. This is once we've just cleared the room, so you can see they're going up. We had no idea that there was an Arc of Rooms up there. I had asked Louis to go over and dig in this one shallow depression. I said, I think there's a kiva there. Well, it turned out there was not a kiva. It was a pothole, and that it turned out to be a whole Arc of Rooms. We had discovered one wall, I think this wall right up here, back in 2011, but we hadn't gone any farther than that. And so we just had a corner of one room up there. There we go, working on the Arc of Rooms. This is what we call the corn room, because underneath this slab was a whole lot of I'm just going to say bushels, 2 bushels of burned corn that looked so big that it almost seemed like it was bloated. So we did run a radiocarbon date on that, and it did come out 1220 to 1284, which is towards the end there. This is another room that had a workbench here with a lot of tools on it, and then it had this a hearth over here, and I suspect that this might have been a mealing bin, also a mealing bin and a hearth. And this room was the mealing room. There is a mealing bin right here up against the corner, and there was two hearths. And this one probably may have been to capture some of the corn coming down. There were about 7 monos laid all over the floor that were point located in that room. This is, I put this in because this is where I thought there should be kivas. So this is the Plaza Kiva, and I was off. It's a little bit further over here and a little bit further to the southwest. And I still think that there should be a kiva up here, but we have started testing, but we keep running into disappearing walls. And then we still need to test over here to see if there's a kiva over here. It's a flat area, and I'm pretty sure, 85%, that there's going to be another kiva similar to the painted kiva. This is the P3 small house between the Chacoan Great House and those cobble walls that are next to the Great Kiva. And there are 7 rooms here. There's one more room over here. You can kind of see these 6. But this one had a feature in it that was a slab-lined pit. And as we go down and down and down, it turns into a tunnel. And ended up excavating that tunnel, and that tunnel, of course, leads to something. So that tunnel led to a kiva, and this tunnel was very nice. Did I put another picture in? Yes, looking through the tunnel, it has nice masonry on the sides of it. It's about 2 feet high, and it's about 2.5 feet wide. I didn't put a picture of the kiva there because all we did was we found that it went to a kiva, and then we stopped. This is another kiva. This is the one that is on the west side of the Great Kiva, and we did put a trench through this, a 1x2, 4, 6, 1x6. No, it was a 1x8 trench, and we only went down to the deepest part, down to fine floor, just in this small area right here. And it just happened that we did come across one of those San Juan pilasters, again with the green shale decoration, that piece of green shale right in the middle of that pilaster. So we did find floor down there, and this is most definitely a P3 kiva. And we did find a nice turkey bone on the floor, so I'm hoping to get that dated also. The pit structure is in the southeast portion of the site, closer to getting pretty close to the bluff. It's in an area where the 1980 recording of that site had several possible pit structure depressions, which did not show up. This is the only one that showed up when I was out there. We started the trench in 2014, then we waited a few years before continuing that, but we did find this in 2014, which is an Abajo red on orange jar. And then the 2019, we did the whole trench and found this, the line on both sides, the eastern and the west. Again, we did approximate 6 meters diameter, and upon excavation of a 2 by 2 meter unit, we did find that it definitely is a pit structure. Now, there was a funky thing here where if it's a pit structure, I'm expecting a bench. Well, we get down to what I thought was going to be the bench, but there was a mealing bin on it. It turned out there's no mealing bin on a bench. That was the floor. So there was no bench on this, or at least there's no evidence of a bench on this, the northwestern portion of this pit structure. It was filled with trash, lots and lots and lots of trash, lots of debitage, lots of cores, so many cores, unbelievable. So right next to the mealing bin are some nested vessels. The first one they came across, I don't have a picture of because it was a little bit above the others. That was a trachyte jar, neck banded jar, wide neck banded. And then underneath that was this Pueblo I bowl. And underneath the Pueblo I bowl, when you look right down here, there's actually a Chapin jar, a Basketmaker III Chapin jar. So that's why I kind of thought that it might be Basketmaker III, but there is this Pueblo I vessel, and this is definitely Pueblo I. So it's got to be P1 habitation. However, was it built earlier? It may have been. There's a view from above looking down there. You can see all the lenses of midden in there. There was a little an adobe wall that extended out from the mealing bin, making it a specific little area there. This is the only good floor. We did go deeper and we found 2 other segments of intact floor, but they slumped down below the rest of this. This is the mealing bin, another close up, and this is another thing that made me think that it was Basketmaker III, because we have this post impression here, like there was a post, and so we think that it might have been a late Basketmaker III or early P1 platform roof, as Earl Morris defines in his archaeological studies in the La Plata district, 1939. There's the sandal. By the picture, Lori Webster identified it as a Basketmaker III sandal. I haven't had a chance to really take it up to her and have her verify that. But the other thing that indicated Basketmaker III was this adobe that's got reeds in it. It's quite different than the normal hakal that you find. So again, that seems to be as per that is also, it could be Basketmaker III. Okay, we did look at some ceramics here and in the fill only. And this was Northern San Juan, 67%. We looked only at the decorated ceramics, only the black on white ceramics, and Cibola 25%, and then Chusca 8%, with a couple of Tusayan sherds, but not very many. So the majority is your Northern San Juan, which we would expect, but this is actually a fairly high percentage of Cibola sand and sherd. And it does have quite a lot of red mesa block on white, which is an early P2. These are some of the sherds from there. And look what we found. We found that missing piece from that Abajo red on orange in there from that 2014 test trench. Some more ceramics from there. We got this cute little Basketmaker III Chapin jar, as it might have been made by a kid. We do have Northern San Juan moccasin gray, Piedra. We've got Chusca Newcomb black on white, Cibola red mesa black on white, Northern San Juan Piedra black on white. These are P1, Basketmaker III P1, P1, and late P1. These are late P1, and then we also have a late P1, early P2. This is a good place to mention that those Cibola ceramics tend to generally have a bright white slip, and they're generally thinner and harder. And so that's a little bit different, because the slip that we get from our clay, which is kind of a dirty clay, is usually more yellowish in color. This vessel was very interesting because this vessel here was found in room 34. And we found a piece of this vessel because Elaine Finner figured that out and got it to match in the pit structure. So that was very interesting. Also a nice Chaco black on white jar fragment and a Northern San Juan Bluff black on red and some Northern San Juan Dead Man's black on red. Okay, so how am I doing on time there? Anybody let me know? Okay, I'm going to talk. I like it. What's
Doing
that?
great, Linda. Doing great. Keep going.
Okay. I'd like to always mention towards the end of my talk that these remarks that were made by Tito Naranjo of Santa Clara Pueblo. And I found these remarks in the Canyons of the Ancients National Monument Lowry Pueblo pamphlet, which I love. Mostly because I had heard that some of the roads tend to go off in a direction, but really don't go anywhere. It's just like it's a linkage to something that's past there. But his statement that once a sacred place has been established, it always remains sacred, kind of made me think about the fact that quite a few of those road linkages may be going to sacred places from the past. And so maybe it's going to a structure that they lived in the past and where there was a great kiva. And then he also mentions that all life was based on corn in the Pueblo as it is today, and that the spirit being of the people and the spirit being of the village is still here. So thank you, Tito Naranjo. I can't really see the top part of what it says there. Anyway, these are social concepts of the Puebloans, which are very important to their culture. Center place, which I guess people just automatically now talk about Chaco Canyon being the center place. And I just recently watched that Native Americans, Likuan Wisama is in there, and a number of other Hopi elders that are sitting there in the Great Kiva at Pueblo, one of the Great Kivas there at Pueblo Bonito. And it is, I think, the one that's in the middle next to the wall, which does have some similarities to point in that those roof support vault complexes are similar in that they connect wholly on each of them on the east and the west with little compartments in them, which it looks very similar to the ones at Point. Dualism also is very important, and with the dualism, sometimes some think that might come in a little bit at the late end, particularly at Pueblo Bonito. They built that wall that bisects Pueblo Bonito towards the latter end of the occupation. That was probably in the early 1100s. I'm not sure of the date on that though. And the idea that the above principles are represented on the landscape and in the natural world. The directions of the rooms at the Great House do seem to be more cardinal, although there's been a lot of movement of things on that slope with walls kind of leaning and falling. So I'm not quite sure about that, but they do look definitely more cardinal than solstitial. Whereas the Great Kiva, the alignment on that is 10 degrees off, 10 degrees east of north. I hope I got that right. Because these concepts, so the idea that the above principles are represented on the landscape and in the natural world. Because these concepts are present across the entire Pueblo world, it is likely that at least some version of them were key components in the Chacoan worldview. And Stewart Canyon, which is probably a mile and a half east of Point, has many rock art panels there. They were recorded as 6 different sites, but some of those sites are quite extensive. And this petroglyph in particular is part of the most extensive rock art panel, which has Basketmaker III definitely a whole clan. I've got them next, and many other Puebloan things. We don't really see any Navajo things on there. Sometimes you do get Navajo stuff mixed in with the Puebloan. They like to make that, and I do know that there are Puebloan sites there, not particularly well. Actually, on Tommy's ranch, there was one Navajo site over on the what they call the I forget what they called it, but it did have a date, a thermoluminescence date of in the 1400s. And then one of the panels that I'm going to show you here is a Navajo panel that I've had some Navajos look at that and tell me they think it's much earlier than the ones that you see at Crow Canyon over in the Navajo Reservoir area off of Crow Canyon, drains into Largo Wash. So it's east of the North Road. I almost think that North Road that goes from Chaco Canyon north that heads sort of to Aztec, slightly bends there at the end. It almost seems like a dividing line. We find a lot of Navajo stuff to the east of that and very little to the west of that. So that's quite interesting. I'm not sure what that means. Anyway, so the one Navajo guy that looked at the Navajo panel, which I should be telling you when I'm talking about the Navajo panel, but let me talk to you about this one first before I finish that story. So this has got two connected spirals. The holy person is right here, right in between. And then you also have a later glyph, one of those geometric square elements, of which the bluffs on the north side of the water flow fruitland area are full of these squares, geometric squares, which most of that stuff does look to be P2 and P3, but I'm sure there's some P1 stuff in there. It's just full of Puebloan petroglyphs. So this is quite dramatic and definitely is, I would say it's a Chacoan glyph of a sacred leader with spiritual elements. This is the Basketmaker III clan that is on the south-facing side, as is the one I just showed you, of the first tributary that drains into, of the last tributary that drains into Stewart Canyon right before it goes into the San Juan River. So I haven't ever counted these up, but I think there's probably between 15 and 20 of those broad-shouldered guys, which would seem to indicate that there may be a Basketmaker III habitation nearby, or possibly Basketmaker II. We did find Basketmaker II site ceramics at Point. This is the Navajo glyph, which does look quite different than those you usually see in the traditional area thought to be the Dineta. However, Farmington does qualify as being at the western edge of the Dineta, which is the sacred homeland of the Navajo. So in the middle, we have the traditional Ga'askety. Ga'askety is carrying a pack on his back, and he will often have a headdress that is kind of similar to the one Monster Slayer wears, which is going to be a willow framework with a lot of feathers on it. And he's carrying this stick, staff, which what's in the bag? Corn. Corn is supposed to be in the bag, and there are a few petroglyphs out there that have the little pieces of corn showing up in the bag. So he's got his staff and he's out there planting corn. Jim Copeland told me the story of Ga'askety, which very quickly is the men went out hunting for mountain sheep. And of course, in Navajo stories, you do that 4 times. So they did it 4 times. And on the 4th time, they were still unsuccessful, having been successful the 3 times before also. And they turned into Ga'askety. So to me, this is some sort of a transitional figure between hunting and gathering Navajos and corn is life Navajos, which is going to be on the earlier end of the spectrum. So the Navajo guide did that, indicated to me that they looked so different to him. He did think that they may be as early as in the 1500s, which would go along with the date. I think it was a thermoluminescence date from that Hogan. I do not know which is sacred holy people these are, spiritual beings. If they're round, if it's a round face, it's supposed to be men. If it's a square face, it's supposed to be female. And so since those are round, I'm assuming it's male Ya'es or spiritual beings. There is a headdress in that Crow Canyon area that looks similar to this one here, though, I have to say. Okay, And I'm going to end here with this slide of the bluffs with a rainbow overlooking the area. And I took this from up on the Elks Lodge, just happened to have that rainbow and a raptor of some kind flying in the air there. So here's your needle rock with the one alcove on one side, alcove on the other side. Tommy site's right down here, and point is on the terrace that's right here. And there's the city of Farmington. Am I good on time? I can probably talk more if you need me to.
No, you're great, Linda. But we do have some time for questions, and we do have a number of questions. So let me see, bring these up. And let's see. All right. Wow. So the first question, and I'm going to try to keep these as organized as possible, but other ones are coming in, so we might jump around a bit. But the first one was about the Great Kiva itself, and this actually David Noble asked, do you think that the Great Kiva was roofed?
That is a very good question, and I really do not know. I think my personal opinion, there's no wood. There's no wood in the kiva at all. There was not any, no burned wood, no wood. I think on that trench that we put down the middle there, where we went down to the floor 3, there was one little feature that had a little nubbin of wood on it, but it was like almost a cover over a feature. So I'm not really going to count that as anything to do with roofing. Unlike Aztec, where the kiva, the Great Kiva there, you know, it totally burned, and it left it really easy for Earl Morris to figure out how that thing was roofed, because it was the plan of it was on the floor. But there's really very little burning in the kiva at all. There's some, it appears to on the east wall and on the west wall only. And so I suspect that that's some kind of ritual burning, perhaps at the end, but there's no evidence of any burned wood there. So I do think that that may have been, and one reason I say that is because room 34 does not have burned materials in it. I mentioned those 3 rooms that have burned roof fall. Room 34 has burned walls. On the adobe is still on the walls. The adobe stucco is still on the walls, and they're bright red. So obviously it got burned. That's on the west wall and the south wall. The north wall does not seem to have that same burning, but that north wall is a stub wall. I'm still not sure quite what's going on there. So I do think that those 3 rooms in the great house that have the burned roof, I suspect those were burned on purpose. Now the Great Kiva, what I'm thinking is that when they did their remodeling, making it a bigger kiva, making it 1.4 meters in diameter, bigger than it had been before, that they may have removed the roof, and maybe they did not roof it on the second version. That's what I'm kind of thinking. I have no idea if that's correct or not. All I know is there's no evidence of a roof.
Gotcha. Well, hey, that's what you have to go on. No, that's really that's a great explanation. So another viewer asked if you found any evidence of T-shaped doorways at any of the excavations around there.
No T-shaped doorways. Now, I would think that you would find those. Normally, they're found on the side facing the plaza. So we don't have anything facing the plaza because that's under the road. So I suppose it's still possible, but you know, I don't know. And at Tommy's site that we did excavate beforehand, it had nice doorways with thresholds, but none, at least a couple of those, but none of those were T-shaped doorways.
Gotcha. So then also relating back to the diameter of the Great Kiva, one viewer asked if, basically asking about the relative size. Do you think it's as large as like the Casa Rinconada Great Kiva, or smaller like some of the ones that were like court kivas that remodeled, or what relatively to other great kivas? Do you have any sense of how it compares?
The upper Great Kiva is 18 meters in diameter, 17.8. You know, it was 17.8, 18. And that is on the large end. It's actually a little bit bigger than the Great Kiva at Aztec, and it's substantially bigger than the one at Salmon. Casa Rinconada, if I remember right, is more along the lines of over 20 meters, 21 or 22, maybe even 23 meters. So it's smaller than Casa Rinconada. But as I mentioned, I didn't get the exact diameter for Chetro, but it seems to be very similar, within 20 or 30 centimeters to Chetro.
Very interesting.
Both of them. Both the lower one is similar to the lower of Chetro, and the upper one is similar to the upper one of Chetro. And I did notice too that the occupation date for that the lower one was at about 1060. So I'm almost wanting to make that 1060 the same for Point.
Oh, interesting. Wow, no, that's fascinating. And especially the connection, linking the Farmington area with Chaco, and the idea that other folks have suggested that Aztec in particular might have been kind of like a second Chaco, and so maybe the Point site then could have played within that, as similar relationships that great houses in Chaco have to Benito and Chetro.
Yes, and we do have, there is the Hawkes Great House and a Sterling Great House and Point Great House. And now I'm calling Tommy a great house too. Yes, it's small, but Point is actually a small great house also. You got a big great kiva there, but the great house so far seems to be small, except for the fact that who knows how much of it has eroded down the slope.
Right. Yeah, no, it's just fascinating. But actually, that leads into another question. You are so good, Linda. So let's see, how many, what this person asked is how much mud and debris do you think has flowed over this and other sites that you've worked on from the cliffs above? And tell us a little bit about, if you can, how much material was burying these sites and how you removed it.
Okay, so I guess the Tommy site would be the perfect example, because the Tommy site, which I'm going to tell you is, it's like right here at the base of this clay stuff here. But then it's sandstone above that. So of course you're getting drill from the clay and from the sandstone. So because of the needle rock and because of Point, this area was in between those two. So Tommy just thought there should be something there, which was a good thought. And he actually asked the other archaeologists to put some little of their auger holes in there. Well, the auger holes did go about 4 feet, but they did not really find anything. So he was with his big equipment guy, Dave, who had the bulldozer over there, because Tommy does have to build erosion control dams. He probably has almost a couple hundred throughout his 12,461 acres. And so they were out there building an erosion control dam very near the needle rock. And so he decided to have Dave bring the bulldozer over, and right where he thought there should be something, he said, dig. And so as the story goes, Dave goes back and forth, and he gets down about 6 feet. He's got a nice big wide trench there, 6 feet deep, mostly all sand. And he looks up at Tommy and he goes, "Nothing there, boss." And Tommy says, "Dig deeper." So he goes down another 2 feet, and that's where you hit the top of the Tommy site, which turned out to be a village. If I'm going to call this a small great house, and it had several pit structures / kivas that he excavated. I think there was a total of, because Tommy did excavate that for a couple years, 87, 88, and 89, partway into 89. And there was about a dozen of those kivas and pit structures. I know we excavated one partial pit structure, which was on the early side. It didn't really have very much. It did have a little bit of, well, I wouldn't call it masonry. It was like they took rocks and kind of pushed them into the wall. That's how crude that one was. And it did seem to have, and then another pit structure had posts in the bench rather than, so it was, I don't know, posts in the bench instead of 4 posts in the middle there. So that one was deep, definitely deep. The Mine Canyon one is another one that was deep. And Mining Canyon is right around the corner in the fields over here before you take the road that goes up the bluffs to get to Point. That is a big, huge field. And there was a ditch cut in 1967 that they fixed the ditch, but nobody ever bothered to go into the drainage cut that went down to the river until I guess, I'm not sure how long afterwards he did that, but Tommy went down there and he found walls. There were walls in the cut bank of that ditch. So he ended up excavating at the Mine Canyon site for several years also. So that's why I have this feeling. Now, the Mine Canyon site also is fairly close to the bluffs, and Tommy's site is right next to the bluffs. And then Sterling Great House is way on the edge out towards the river, and that one's visible. So that's why I have this feeling that it's covered up stuff that's closer to the bluff, but left the things that are out closer to the river not as buried.
Wow. Yeah, and I remember working at Tommy for a couple of years at the Tommy site. Wow, yeah, I was like getting through the overburden. That was quite the feat to get down to the cultural deposits.
Oh, yes. So I didn't mention how we got rid of that. Yes, the backhoe was brought in to remove that.
I think one year I remember we didn't have access to the backhoe. We did it by hand, and that was
Oh, yes.
a lot of work. But that's how you know you're doing it. No, that's great. That's great. So yeah, so you, like you're saying, you think there's probably a lot.
I think in Tommy's fields, there's all kinds of stuff buried in there. And I also do think that we would find canals in there also. Oh,
wow. Yeah, right where the rivers come in. No, that's amazing. So one person asked about some of the pottery that you'd found, and you mentioned there was, I think you said something about a Chaco black and white jar. Was that a cylinder jar or a regular? Okay.
It's a pitcher, really.
Okay.
A pitcher.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then in terms of the marine shell, you might have mentioned what variety it was, but
I think I listed them on that one slide, but we found glycymerus, which that reminds me that at the Tommy site we did find a glycymerus pendant as well as a glycymerus bracelet also. We have not found the bracelet or a pendant of glycymerus. We've only found regular round beads, but we have calcite. Quite a lot of calcite beads were left on the bench of the Great Kiva and on the floor. And then we also have olivella beads, and we have turquoise beads, and we have argillite beads and jet beads. And the shell is also abalone and abalone, olivella, and what did I just say? The other one? Oh, glycymerus.
Wow, that's great. So from a long ways away, obviously.
Yes, definitely.
Somehow made their way to the point.
And from the different bodies of water, the Pacific coast and the Gulf too.
Oh yeah, good point. Right. Wow. So quite the center place, like you suggested.
And talking about beads, I would say that I do think that they are constantly giving offerings when they go into the Great Kiva, because we've just found so many just spread throughout the entire Great Kiva, as well as the White Mountain redwares on that uppermost floor. I didn't put that in this presentation, but I did plot our locations for those Red Mountain widewares, and none of them were even, they were just kind of your normal size of a sherd. They're just scattered throughout. And I just used to have this vision of them, somebody coming in with a whole bunch of them and just going whoosh and throwing them all over the Kiva. But I know that those were placed there in specific areas, as well as those pendants also. I did have a brief connection to Navajo colors, which with the jet pendant was on the, let's see, now how did that go? Anyway, it seemed to me that the colors had a deal to do with also the way they were putting things on the Great Kiva floor.
Well, so then that ties in really well with another question. You talked about the pieces of green stones that were built into some of the walls, similar, like you said, to some of the stuff at Salmon and Aztec, I think.
Mhm.
And do you have any thoughts on like the purpose of those based on where they were, or the directions they faced, or anything like that? Any thoughts on those?
Well, the greenstones on the altar, you know, they're facing to the inside of the great kiva, and I don't know of other places that have that on an altar, because the altar at Aztec is painted. That was painted. Now, this one probably was painted, maybe was painted too. So it could be a hidden thing. And the decoration on the Aztec walls there's some thought, you know, that the walls, the beautiful masonry of the walls was covered with stucco. Now, we don't, I guess maybe sometimes it's covered with stucco, but we don't know that it's always covered in stucco. I know that stucco acts as helps preserve the walls, so I can see why they would want to do that. But I know I just recently took a tour of Salmon with Tori Myers, and she was saying she definitely thinks that not all the walls were stuccoed, which then you would be allowed to see these decorative elements. That's all I know.
No, that's great.
Mhm.
And then, so let's see, there was a question. Have you found any unusual fauna, like maybe fish bones, from any
What
of the
bones?
deposits? Fish.
What bone? Fish. Oh, yes, indeed. We definitely found fish. There was fish bones, which those vertebrae are very, very diagnostic. There were fish bones in the midden that was behind the pit structure, which I'm sure was associated with that pit structure. And then there was also, we found a partial skeleton of a fish on the floor, and I believe that was the remodeled floor on the east side where we went down to the remodeled floor of the Great Kiva too.
Wow. So at this point, have you had any indication of what kind of species?
No, I have not
Okay.
had that checked.
Huh. Interesting. And then what about waterfowl was another question.
Oh, no, you know, I have not had much of the fauna. I did have fauna from the Tommy site analyzed, but I have not had much of the fauna from here. I know that there's turkey in there. There's both deer and elk, you know, and lots of rabbit. But I don't know about duck. But right on the river there, you would think there would be some. And it also makes me wonder about Canada geese. Did they have Canada geese too?
Interesting.
Because
What kind
those
of
things are
geese?
pretty
They're
plump.
what?
They're pretty
Yeah, they
plump.
actually are. I can tell you from personal experience, they're very tasty as well. But so I always wonder about Canada geese as well.
I'll mention along with that, in that room 34 that I mentioned may have just been a offering room at some point, as well as the vessels, so many vessels in there. We did also find an unusual quantity of bone, and it was not burned bone. This was mostly all yellowish bone of lots of different things. So it would be really good. And I'm probably talking 1, 2, 3, I'm going to say at least 3,000 pieces of bone that we found in there.
Wow.
Mostly
Well,
small fragments, but some of it's not, along with a Bahada point.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Very
Well,
early.
I do know several faunal analysts, zooarchs, that'll probably be calling you up soon to check that out.
Tell them to give me a ring.
Yeah, yeah.
Wheelbarger
No,
at San Juan College.edu.
There you go. So let's see here. There was a question about, let's see, make sure I'm looking at the right one here. The Chacoan roads. Can you talk a little more about the roads, either leading to points in just that general area or leading away from it? You mentioned some that don't seem to go anywhere, but are there other roads that do seem to go to specific sites? Or can you just tell us a little more about that?
It's been a while since I looked at it, but in the contract archaeology office at San Juan College, there were some black and white photographs, and some of those were from up the La Plata way at some sites. I believe it was the East Side Rincon site, as well as just some general ones of the La Plata area. But there were also a set of photos that were of the area that we're talking about, including the junction of Animas and San Juan, so that John Roney, who did do quite a lot of work, he had marked on those maps that he thought there was a road. Basically, it was a road that was going from Sterling over towards Point, basically, and it would have crossed through Mine Canyon also, or it probably, and he didn't go on to the Hawkes property, but it probably would have gone Hawkes to Sterling to Mine Canyon to Point, with Mine Canyon being buried now because it's further closer to the bluffs. So he did mark that on there, but there's no way to see that now. It's all fields. So I don't know if you could do that with LiDAR or with something. We did have some magnetometer work done in those fields, and it did picks up magnetic things, but the road's not going to be magnetic, so it did not pick up any road for us. And then the other thing too is that Rich Friedman and Anna Sofer both do believe that there probably was some kind of going up the bluffs right there behind Point, to the south of Point. And then if you're thinking they're doing that, you're thinking there should probably be a road up there. It is extremely dunal up there, and I just don't know if anybody could. I don't think you can find it from the surface, just too much dunal action. But using some other kind of remote sensing, possibly. I don't know.
Interesting.
And then, did I mention too? I think I did mention that swale, when you stand in that swale on the northwest side of the site, you are looking right directly at the Twin Peaks. So again, is there some sort of, road link going over to that? And then also somebody told me that there was a possible road segment that kind of paralleled Browning, which connects Bloomfield Highway with the highway that goes to Aztec also.
Interesting. Let's see here. So we're just about out of time and out of questions. Let's see, but there was, one question about funding for your research and for the program. Is your funding, does it primarily come from the college, or are there places where it sounds like maybe this person wants to donate? But how is your project funded? Through the college, or through Tommy, or through the field school, or how does that all work, generally speaking?
The first through 2005, we were funded. We had formal funding, and it was because that was when we were still a contract archaeology department. And so we were getting funding from the college and from Tommy. I guess it was mostly from Tommy. But after 2005, the foundation wanted to bug out of that. And they said, well, we got you seated, so you can go on your own now. But basically, Tommy has been kind of distracted. And so I really don't get much funds from him, but I do have a 501c3 for the Total Archaeological Project, to which a number of people do donate on a somewhat regular basis. So we have funding there. And then I'm hoping with a connection that I have with somebody who maybe is going to be joining me this year, Dr. Nicholas Jew, who was recently hired by the college. And at first he is a PhD archaeologist, but his specialty is California and paleo stuff. So it's somewhat different than what we got here. But he is going to come out and be with me this year. He's actually going to be instructor for the field school and me instructor for the intern internship. So I'm going to be teaching him how to run this field school, and I'm hoping that eventually he will be able to take over. And he seems to have quite a bit of experience in writing grants and also publications. So I'm hoping he can help me out on that matter, both of those matters. And as I told him, and if Tommy, if you're listening, I do believe that if he gets some funding, hopefully that you can match that. I'm still not quite sure how the conservation easement thing works into that, though.
Great. Well, we'll try to plug you whenever we can, and hopefully we can get even more funding coming your way for this great project. But
I will just mention that on terms of donation, that if they wanted to send it to the San Juan College Foundation, a check, and if they just put on the use line there, Total Archaeological Project, it will go into my 501c3.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Linda, for the great presentation and telling us about your incredible work that, you've been doing this for over 20 years now, working in this area. And it's so great to see the progress and to see what you've found out about the Ancestral Pueblo Society and Navajo Society and everything. So thank you so much for coming and speaking with us and for the great presentation. And we look forward to hearing more from you in the future.
And thank you, Hisatsinom chapter, for inviting me.
Great. All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. And thanks again, Linda, and we'll talk to you all soon. Thanks.